Good morning. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. And today we are here talking about why you don't want to continue trusting your banker to be your advisor, especially about lending products. Just don't do it. All right. It's absolutely the worst thing you could do. And here's why. The people who work at the bank are doing the very best they can. But if you go to the bank for advice on how to borrow money, no matter what it is, they're not trained to help you. They are trained to sell you products. They're trained to sell you products. So if you are listening to me live come in, go ahead and put something in the chat, put something in the comment section. I want to hear from you today. Ask your questions. If you're here on Clubhouse, come to the stage, ask your questions, put it in the chat. Let's talk about it. Some of you right now, some of you are preparing to buy a house, to refinance, to get a HELOC, to borrow money to consolidate debt. You're going to the bank for advice on these things. And I'm trying to tell you here that financial violence is being perpetrated on unsuspecting consumers, believing that these bankers are expert in how these products operate. Folks, they are learning to become expert in making sales so the bank can make money. I'm not saying that these folks don't have a good heart. I'm not saying that they're not trying to help you the best way they know how. I'm saying that with the information they have, they can't help you in the way that you need because they don't understand how these products work. And I'm going to show you some things today. And if you want to see the examples, if you want to see what I'm talking about, go to YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you comment on the videos, make sure you like the videos, subscribe, comment, and like. All right. So we're getting ready to get started here on this fabulous, fabulous show. It's the first time I've done this type of show, and I'm going to need all of your help to make sure that we're doing this thing justice. So let's get ready. I'm going to pull up our program here. So we're going to get started in just a few seconds. So if you're thinking about going to the bank, if you're thinking about borrowing money, if you're thinking about a HELOC, if you're thinking about getting a refinance, if you're thinking about whatever it is you need that has to do with loan products, don't trust the banker. Let's go. There it is, folks. I got it right on the screen. Stop trusting your banker. They're not trained to help you. What they are salespeople in suits. They're salespeople in suits. So let's go ahead. Let's get started on this thing right now. Some of you right now are getting ready to buy a house. And some of the things, well, let me pull up my notes here so I can make sure we go right down the line. Okay. Banks do have tools. They have tools to help you. They have loans, they have bank accounts, they have a lot of different tools. So here's the first thing I need you to do when you go to your bank to find out what tools you need. Get a list of the tools and then do independent research on how the tools actually operate. Okay? Get independent research on it. Understand what's really going on from a point of view that can help you. Asking questions of the banker of how these things can ultimately help you. You're not going to get those answers. Okay? They're going to give you the best answers they know how. But ultimately, the answers benefit banking and not you. So get advice. So now let's talk about those people who are getting ready to buy a house right now. And one of the things that I've heard, and these are what bankers are teaching, all right, especially those bankers who do mortgages. Marry the house, but date the rate. Have you heard that? Marry the house, but date the rate. The rate may seem too high for you, but you don't need to keep that interest rate. When the rates go down, you can refinance. So here is the truth of the matter. Never, ever, ever refinance just to get a lower interest rate. Don't do it. There are a lot of good reasons to refinance, but just to get a lower interest rate is not one of them. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and put this on the screen. Okay. All right. Let me see here. And we are going to bring up our browser there. And we're going to go to our trusty Brett Whistle. Okay. And we're going to talk about the interest rates now, what they could be, and when it comes to refinancing, how a refinance can actually end up hurting you if you're refinancing just to get a lower interest rate. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to share this screen. There we go. All right. There it is. Okay, folks, let's go over this right now. All right, let's do this very quickly. Some of you have seen this before, but that's okay. All right. And right now my computer kicked me off. There we go. Let's put it back on the screen here. Okay, we're going to add that. There it is. All right, let's do 400,000. Okay, a $400,000 mortgage. That is the median home price right about now at 7%. Okay, so when we hear 7% right now, people are cringing. Some people are not wanting to purchase because of that. So let me show you something here. So if you have a 7% mortgage and you can afford the payment, let me show you the principal payment on this thing. The principal payment, and if you want to see this, go to YouTube. All right, my link is at the top of the page. All right, if you're watching us and listening to us on Clubhouse, go to the link at the top of the page, or go to YouTube and search P.I.L.L method. And when you get there, please subscribe. All right, your principal payment is $327.88. The next month is $329. The next month is $331. So what we have been taught is to look at the interest rate and the payment. So when we go to the bank and we see that the principal payment is $327.88 out of our $2,661 that we're paying every month, the very first interest payment is $2,333.33. I'm here to tell you, you want to focus on the principal payment not the interest rate. You want to manage your principal payment. Okay. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. You see, if I make this payment here in January, I'm making the first payment in January. That means February's principal payment is only $329.79 out of $2,661. We have been taught to feel bad about that. What I'm here to tell you is if you prepay as little as $329.79 in January, you're paid down to line 2 on this amortization schedule in January. And when you're paid down to there in January, then your next mortgage payment is right here. The payment for March actually moves up one. You eliminate line 2 on your amortization schedule for only $329.79. That saves you $2,331.42 in interest you don't have to pay. Now, if I look at my principal payment of $329, I'm not really excited about that unless I know how to read an amortization schedule. But here's what people are being told. I'm going to let's see here. Let's do this. Let's bring up Brett Whistle again. Now, if you want to do this yourself, some people have asked me, Don, what about getting my amortization schedule from the bank? You can do your own. Go to Brett Whistle, BRETWHISSEL, Brett Whistle, WHISSEL, and you can produce your own. You don't have to wait for it to come from the bank. Besides, anytime you prepay this, anytime you give the bank an extra dime they weren't looking for, it destroys the old amortization schedule anyway. So stop trying to get it from your bank. Create your own along the way. Now, if you're working with the P.I.L.L method opportunity cost calculator, we take care of all of that for you. We track all of your amortization schedules. We make all the changes in our AI computer system. It handles it. But if you try to do this on your own, you can make your own amortization schedule every time. So now we're going to, I'm going to duplicate this tab. All right. And I'm going to show you what 5.5% can do. Okay. 5.5. Let's say we can get that payment down, that interest rate down to 5.5. Right. And we're going to handle a couple of different things right here, right now. With a $400,000 mortgage at 7%, if I can afford the payment, I don't have to worry about the fact that my new payment now at 5.5 is $2,271 instead of $2,661. If I can afford the payment, I can do more damage at 7% than I can at 5. Let me show you what 5.5 will do to the principal. Look at this. The principal payment has already jumped up to $439.83 instead of $329. It's $100 more. So here's what I need for you to understand. If you're prepaying, the smaller the principal payment, the more interest you could save, and your money goes further in canceling not just interest, but payments. Let me show you if we add up all the principal payments for 1 year. We add up all the principal payments for 1 year, $4,000. Okay, I need you to take a look at principal, interest, cumulative interest, and principal balance. We're looking at cumulative principal here. This adds up all the principal payments for 1 year, $4,063.23. If you prepay that, you get rid of 1 year on your mortgage. It's gone. 1 whole year if you prepay that. And your next mortgage payment will be on line 13 of your amortization schedule. Okay? If you have a 5.5% interest rate, you have to prepay $5,388.40 to eliminate 1 year. You have to come up with more money to eliminate the same number of payments. The people who own the bank know this. The people who work at the bank don't. So Here's what I'm trying to tell you. They're committing financial violence in the name of giving you good advice. So that is, okay, so we just talked about marry the house, but date the rate. Now, you want to give us a call. We can guide you through all of this. You need somebody on your side when you go to the bank to get these products. I love going to the bank to use their money. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not telling you not to borrow the money. I'm telling you, we need to be educated when borrowing the money, and your bank is not where you get educated about money. Please stop that. Okay. I'm here to tell you. Okay. So listen, I need to have more people interact with me on this. Okay. Make your comments, come up to the stage, ask questions, because some of you are getting ready to refinance. Some of you are getting ready to buy a house. Some of you are getting ready to listen. I want to do something about my credit card debt. Let's consolidate. Stop going to the bank to get these questions answered. Call the P.I.L.L method. Call the P.I.L.L. I'm going to put our phone number at the bottom of the screen. It is 256-886-1867, 256-886-1867. And I'm going to put it in, I've got it crawling across the screen. I'm also going to put it in the comment section, 256-886-1867. And if somebody would please, if you're listening to us on Clubhouse, you can do some of this stuff for me, because I got too many screens to watch. Let me put it in here. 256-886-1867. There you go. Okay. Get somebody on your side. Do you realize that some of our clients, all right, have actually asked me to go to the bank with them? Somebody from the P.I.L.L method to go on a three-way call with their banker and get these things straight. I had somebody call me yesterday about getting a HELOC. All right. And we're going to go over a home equity line of credit and how to get one for yourself. And I recommend, as soon as you have enough equity, everyone needs to get a home equity line of credit. Everybody. Okay. Good morning, Chris. I'm sorry, Kim. How are you doing? Good morning to you. Good morning to you. All right. Okay. Kim Chrisman says she's going to be calling today. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. So what else do we need to know? What else do we need to know? All right. So we just talked about refinancing or getting a lower interest rate. Let's talk about what it costs to refinance. Okay. Let me talk to you about that. Now, if I'm in this, say I'm in this mortgage for like 5 years. Okay. Let me show you what it costs to refinance. If I'm in this mortgage for 5 years and I don't know anything about the P.I.L.L method, I've only paid this mortgage down by $30,000. Okay. And I've paid $106,000 in interest already. Now, here's how much I owe: $369,842.16. Let me show you just a couple of ways that the bank makes money here. Okay. So remember, I'm down to line 60. All right. I've paid my mortgage down to here. My principal payment is 500. Let me see here. Okay. I want to make sure I'm on the right one. Okay. This is a 7% loan. Okay. 60 payments in. Okay. 60 payments in. All right. 60 payments in. That's 5 years. I paid this loan down by only $23,473.59. And I paid how much in interest? 136 grand. All right. Already. That's how much you've paid if you don't know anything about the P.I.L.L method, because you could have paid this loan down by $23,000 for a lot less than $25,000 in interest instead of $136,000 in interest. So that is the first story you want to hear. If I could pay my loan down by this much for only giving the bank 25 grand, that's where you need to be. Borrowing money is not about payment. It is not about interest rate. It's about controlling interest cost. So if you can cut your interest cost by 75, 80, 85%, wouldn't that be great? So it's not about making more money, ladies and gentlemen. It's about paying less interest. Everything we do when it comes to borrowing money is control how much interest you actually pay. And you don't need more money for that. To control a loan, to get out of debt, what you need to learn is how to pay less interest. And that's what the P.I.L.L method is all about. So now we paid this loan down by 23,004. We've already paid 136,000, and we now owe 176,526.41. So we're going to copy that. Okay, let's copy. Boom. Okay, we're going to copy this number. Okay, Control C, copy that, and duplicate the tab. And we're going to put this into our new principal amount. Okay, paste that in there and get rid of the comma. The program doesn't like the comma. All right, now we are refinancing. Okay, we're going to refinance. Let's say we could get that 5.5%. We got the 5.5%. But 90% of people, over 90% of people who refinance get a new 30-year loan. That's number one. It is not the interest rate that lowers your payment. It is dividing what you owe now over a new 360 payment schedule. So if you've been in this loan 5 years, if you've been in this loan 7 years already, and you refinance and they give you a new 30-year mortgage, you now have a 35-year mortgage. You now have a 37-year mortgage, depending on how long you've been in the loan already. Keep that in mind. Okay. So here's the other thing you need to understand. Here's the new payment. Hey, I need you to take a look at your principal payment here at 5 years in is $462.11. If you refinance even to the lower rate, okay, here's your principal payment starting out. It's already 412. Okay, let's go back. Okay, 462, 412. And if you've been listening to me, you might say, oh, Don, I've got a lower principal payment. That should help me. But watch this, ladies and gentlemen. How much does it really cost to refinance? How much does it cost? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to give this a closing cost of only $10,000. That means we're at $386,526. That changes your payment from $2,137 to $2,194. Not that much more. Not that much more. But what you're actually doing when you roll your closing costs into the loan, you're borrowing $10,000. So you paid your loan down to $376,000. It took you 5 years to get it and over 100 grand in interest to get there. How much is it going to cost you to get back to your original 376,000, even if you just roll in your 10 grand for closing costs? Here's the next thing you need to take a look at. Let me get rid of this advertising. All right, that's distracting. All right, so now to get down to 376,000, I'm going to scroll down. Okay, we were at 376,526. Let's find something that's closer. 376, right there. Okay, 376,289. Okay, let me show you something. It takes almost 2 years to get back to $376,000. Now, how much interest just to pay off the 10 grand you borrowed to refinance? You paid $40,000 in interest on that. So the 10 grand you borrowed plus the $40,000 in interest, this refinance will cost most people who get this $50,000 in the first 2 years. $50,000 to refinance, not 10,000, but 50 grand. If you borrow $10,000, ladies and gentlemen, and it costs you $10,000 in interest to pay the $10,000 back, that's 100% interest. If it costs you $40,000 in interest, that's 400% interest. That's just a refinance. So never refinance just to get a lower interest rate. Okay, here's the next thing you don't want to do. Roll in your high interest debt to this thing. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Okay, watch this. So now we're down to 376,000. Okay, we have, all right, we've got our 10,000 in closing costs. So now we're at 386,000. Okay, 386. And now we have about $40,000 in other loans. And some of it is credit card debt, maybe your car loan, maybe some personal loans. Okay. And let's say the interest rate is from 10%, maybe all the way up to 29% on credit cards. Okay. Because it can get pretty high. And we're looking at all the payments we have to make. And here's what you're being told. If you consolidate, you can put all of that money into your mortgage, and now your payment is total about $700 to $1,000 a month less, because they're going to eliminate a bunch of those minimum payments. That's what you're told. So let's roll in. We got 386,000. Let me clear this out. Okay. 386,000. All right. 526 and 41 cents. We're going to add another $40,000 to it of high interest debt. Okay. And it comes to 426,526.41. Okay. So we're going to change this number. All right. And 426, 426, 526. 426. All right. 526. 426, 526, 41. And at 5.5, there we go. Our payment, listen, our total mortgage payment is still less than our original. It's $2421.77. Now, let's look at what it costs, not just to pay back the $10,000, but how much it costs to pay back the $40,000 we rolled in. That's a total of $50,000 we have in this loan. So let's scroll down to where we have paid down $50,000 on this mortgage. Let me show you something here. There's 50,000, 464.04. Okay. It takes, let's see, 72. Okay. There's 5, 6, 7 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. Takes 7 years, 4 months. 7 years, 4 months to pay off the $50,000 you rolled into your mortgage to get back to your original 376,000. Okay. That's where you were before you refinanced, 376,000. And we rolled in $50,000 worth of other debt. You see, that's what you're borrowing. You're just borrowing in a different way. We think it's 5.5% interest, but it's not. When you amortize this loan, this is what it becomes. You just paid $162,000 in interest on that, on 50 grand, and you did it in just a little over 8 years. $50,000 and another $50,000 in interest. That's 100%. Another 50,000, that makes it $100,000 in interest. That's 200% interest. And another 50,000 on top of that, that's $150,000 in interest at least to pay back $50,000 you borrowed. So it's going to cost you total 162. Oh, let's get rid of this. 162,000. This is the financial violence that I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. 162,000 651 and 72 cents. Plus the $50,000 you rolled in. Okay? Equals $212,651.72 you have to pay out just to get back to your original $376,000 because you rolled it into the mortgage. When your loan is amortized, folks, it is not 5.5%. Here is what it really is. Let me show you. Instead of 5.5, 5.5 really means this. Look here. Annual interest rate, 5.5. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 104%. And it's much higher than that at the beginning of the loan. This is the financial violence I'm talking about when it comes to borrowing money. Okay? When it comes to borrowing money. What's next on our list? Okay? Never take their advice about debt. Don't do it. Okay? Let's talk about buying down the rate. Okay? Buying down the rate now. Oh my gosh. If we buy down the rate, here is what's going on. And I want to show you something first. Okay, I want to show you something first. Here's 7%. Okay. Let's just say at 7%. Okay. Let me find there it is, 5.5. Okay, 7%. Let me show you something that just doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I'm the bank. Okay. I'm the bank and I'm lending money at 7%. And I'm going to sell you a rate. I'm going to sell you a rate of 5.5 so you can get a lower payment. Let's just say it's going to cost somewhere between $12,000 and $17,000 to buy it down that far. Okay. Now, I want to show you something that makes absolutely no sense at all. I'm the bank and I have a loan that most people will never pay off. Do you know most people, 90% of the people you know will never pay off a mortgage ever? They just won't do it. Okay. So now I'm going to make 100. The bankers and the investors are going to make 139% on this loan. Okay. They want a total interest paid of $558,000. Now, somebody's going to say, well, Don, people don't stay in these houses for 30 years. They stay in the 5 to 7 years and then they move on. I'm so tired of hearing that. You're going to move to a different house, another house, probably, and that's going to cost you more interest. So you're going to end up paying this much interest or more over 30 years because you'll never pay off a mortgage ever. 90% of you will not do it. Why? Because we're taught not to. So let's stop saying they're only going to be in that mortgage for 5 to 7 years, and then they're going to move on. I'm talking about total interest costs for a lifetime. It's going to be at least $558,000. This is what bankers are looking for. They're looking for this money. To borrow $400,000, it's going to cost $558,000. So if I can get a 5.5% loan on the same $400,000, now it goes down to $417,000. Let me show you something that doesn't make sense. All right, let me put the calculator back on the screen. How much interest are they trying to get over 30 years, 558,000. Okay. 558,000, 35 bucks. Well, I might as well put the 60 cents in too. Okay. Now, if I buy the rate down, let's say I pay between $12,000 and $17,000 for that. Okay. I can get a new interest rate. But look at what happens to this loan. Now the total interest paid for 30 years drops down to 417,000. You tell me what sense this makes to the bank. So we're going to subtract $417,617.60. Look at this. That's 140 grand. Are you telling me that it makes sense to the bank to sell you an interest rate for 12 to 17 grand so that they can lose $140,000? Does that make sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? Huh? Tell me, what sense does that make? I'm going to charge you. Listen, you need a house. I got the money. You can afford the payment at 7%, but I'm going to offer you a deal. The deal is I'm going to charge you 12 to 17 grand. Okay. And then what you could do is get a 5.5% interest rate. So my bank, my shareholders, and everybody I know who's investing in the bank, they can lose $140,000 in interest. Y'all, listen, that doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you? Let me show you what you could do at the higher interest rate with your $12,000 or $17,000. If you were going to use that to buy down the rate, keep the higher rate. And if you prepay the $12,000 to this loan, okay, let me show you what happens. You knock off almost 3 years off this loan. Look at that. Take your 12 grand and apply it to principal. If it's $17,000, well, let's not forget about the 78 grand in interest you're going to save by applying that money to principal instead of buying down the rate. Let's say it's 17 grand. Okay, we're going to scroll down to 17,000. Here it is, 17,242. If they're going to charge me $17,000 for it, I'm going to say, nope, I want the higher interest rate. I can afford the payment. I'm going to take the 17 grand and I'm going to apply it to principal and knock off 46 payments I never have to make. And I'm going to save $105,000 in interest. All right. All right. So here is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Please, let me I'm going to put this picture back on the screen. Put the picture back on the screen. Here it is. Stop trusting your banker. They're not trained to help you. Okay. They're selling you. They're not educating you. They're selling you. They're not educating you on how these products work. And I'm not saying that the people who work in the bank have a bad motive. They are there, and most of them are there to help. Most of them there are believing they're giving you good advice. Most of them there follow the advice themselves, and they don't even realize how an amortization works. And this is what's happening, really. They don't understand it. Don't go there for help, please. Okay? So let's get back to this. What's next on our list? We talked about buying down the rate. Okay? Talked about buying down the rate. Does anybody have any questions about anything that has to do with banking, anything that has to do with going to the bank to get a loan, credit cards, anything, any advice that bankers have given you over the years that proved to be false, or any new information you just want to test? Okay? Oh my gosh. All right. You are, let's see, just now. Okay. Listen, folks, what is it? What is it that you want to know? Ask your questions now. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comment section. Come to the stage. If you want, I am going to invite you. All right. I'm going to put a link here. Paste this link in here. This link, if you go to Chrome and put this link in, you can come into our studio here on YouTube or Facebook. All right. And we can have a discussion if you use that link I just put in to the comment section online here. I'm going to put the same link here for you guys on Clubhouse. Okay. That link will bring you into the studio and we can have a face-to-face conversation on this subject. Okay. Now, what's next? What's next? What's next? We talked about buying down the rate. Okay. We talked about consolidating high interest debt into the loans. Don't do it. Let's talk about getting a HELOC. All right. Some of the things now, I have several points I want to make about getting a HELOC. All right. When you get I recommend that everybody, once you have enough equity, and now if you're using the P.I.L.L method and the opportunity cost calculator, you can get equity cheaper and faster if you do that. So I'm going to talk about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things you need to consider when getting a HELOC. I'm going to come back right after this message, though. But stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, okay? I want to make sure you get all of this information right after this message.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
Okay, folks, that was that was E.T. All right, the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas, and what he was talking about is right here. All right, ice10k.com. Let me put that back on the screen. Okay, all right, ice. All right, ICE. The number 10, the letter K.com. All right, let's put this back on the screen. Okay. So ice10k.com. All right, go there and scroll down and click on get a savings and earnings report. You can today ask for a savings and earnings report and know the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you could save. And stop going to the bank for advice. And from now on, when you go to the bank to use their products, especially loan products, you can go in armed with the education you need to get these loans so that they will benefit you and not the bank. And listen, even if you don't feel confident after the coaching and training that we give you, that's okay. Let's go online with a P.I.L.L method representative on the phone, 3-way with your banker, and we will walk you through this step by step. You need somebody on your side. I have been with our clients even at the closing table, because when you're asking questions, when you're closing on a mortgage and you start asking questions and you feel um, um, you feel uneasy about something, okay? Let me go full screen on this. You feel uneasy about something at the closing table and you start asking questions. Do you think, are you going to get any answers that say, you know what, maybe you should rethink this? Maybe this isn't for you. Let's delay closing. Let's stop everything. No, the advice you're going to get is that they're going to try to calm your fears, tell you everything is okay. There's nothing wrong here because everybody at the table is getting paid. Everyone at the closing table, except you, is getting paid. You need somebody who's going to be there to look out for you. Listen, we've done this. We have given people great advice at the closing table. We have helped people to save tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars when closing on a loan. So if you're getting ready to get a mortgage, listen, some of you may be getting a mortgage or refinance right now. You could be, if you're getting a refinance, even if you've signed it today or yesterday, you got 3 days to cancel it. Okay? Call us. Let's go over it. If you have any questions at all, we can help you in helping you to save money. All right? Let's save money. Let's learn how to borrow money at a discount, ladies and gentlemen. Let's stop doing what the bankers are asking us to do. So I promised you about 7 ways to get a HELOC, some of the things that you need to consider. And if you got any questions, all right, come on up and ask, okay? All right, so now let us take a look at this. First of all, always get the interest only option. When you're getting a HELOC, okay, work with those bankers that will give you the interest only option to make your minimum payment. That doesn't mean you can only pay interest. That means that is the lowest minimum payment is the interest only option. And it gives you way more flexibility, and you could put money on principal at any time and any amount that benefits you. If you can get an interest only loan of any kind, maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that later, but get the interest only option. And if you have any questions about that, give us a call and I'll go into detail why the interest only option can actually help you. Okay? Because there are times when you take a look at how much interest you can save by taking your discretionary income and paying down another loan instead. You can save more interest than putting that money on the HELOC. Okay? So just remember that. This is all about doing opportunity cost all the way across the board, ladies and gentlemen. If you pay your money one way, how much interest is it costing you, or how much interest is it saving you? Or I can take the money and put it over here, but I'm not calculating how much interest is costing me or how much interest is saving me. Everything you do, we need to focus on how to save the most interest we possibly can. And if we're not measuring, ladies and gentlemen, you can't optimize what you can't measure. And we are taught not to measure. We're taught to feel a certain way about making payments, but we're not taught to measure the outcomes. And if you're not measuring the outcomes, you can't do what's best for you. Okay? So always get the interest only option. Number 2, never lock the rate. They charge you for it anyway. Never lock the interest rate. Well, Don, every HELOC I've ever seen is variable rate. It could go up, it could go down, and I'm afraid of it going up. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. You could do more damage to that loan if the rate goes up than if it goes down. That's number one. Number two is while you're paying back these loans, you're going to be paying it back so fast that even if the interest rate goes up, your minimum payment is still going to be less than it was when you started the loan, because we can pay off all of your debt, your mortgage, your second mortgage, your credit cards, your student loans, your car loans, everything in an average of 7 to 9 years by using the P.I.L.L method. So if that's the case, do I ever have to worry about a fluctuating interest rate? Because I'm going to be knocking down the interest cost on all my other loans, so more of my money goes to the principal and pays it down much faster, okay? So that even though the interest rate goes up, my payment goes down. Oh, Lord have mercy. What did I just say? And I mean that, okay? My payment goes down. All right. Okay. Here's another one. Okay. Now, I had somebody call me about getting a HELOC, and they were going to take less money. They were going to establish a HELOC for less money than than the maximum they could. Okay. So in other words, let's just say I could get $150,000 of my equity in a HELOC. That means the max you'll be able to borrow is 150,000. But when you close on the HELOC, you owe $0. If you owe $0 on a $150,000 HELOC, you're not paying any interest at all. Okay? So you only pay interest on the money you borrow, period. And if you're not borrowing the money, you're not paying any interest. So why not? Don't stop at 50,000. Go ahead and get the full whatever it is that's available to you. Now, whichever bank you use, you could get 80% of your equity, 85%, 90, 95%. It all varies according to the bank or credit union you're using. I advise our clients to use the bank or credit union that will give you the highest percentage of your equity available and get everything that's coming to you. Here's why. Set up a HELOC when you don't need the money. Set up a HELOC when you don't need the money. If something should happen and you need to access that equity for any reason, and your financial situation changes, your work situation changes, you're not making the money that you're used to, something happens, and you try to get the HELOC at that time, your debt to income ratio may be too high for you to get the HELOC at that time. So get as much as you can, as soon as you can, and we're going to talk about how to use the HELOC, okay? So never lock the rate. Never lock the rate, because you want to learn how to use the interest rate to your advantage. You see, being in the P.I.L.L method is not just about getting the technology, it's about getting a formal financial education that's not being taught anywhere else but here. Okay? So we're going to show you how to use those interest rates. All right. Here's another thing. Always get the maximum amount of equity. Never get less. We just talked about that. Use the money. Here it is. If you use the money from the HELOC, use the money to improve your net worth. Okay. Use the money to conserve, not to consume. Don't use the money to buy stuff. That is not going to benefit you in the long run. Just don't do it. Okay. So if you use the money, let's say you can use the money to improve your home. Okay. You can do that. And by making improvements in your house, are you not increasing your equity and are you increasing the value of your home by making those improvements or upgrades? Then the HELOC pays for itself. You see where I'm going with this? So make sure that when you borrow that money, you're using it to make money. I've even seen people use HELOC money to start their own business. Keep this in mind, folks. If you're going to start a business, somehow when we have the money available, we overestimate our ability to work in a certain idea or business. Make sure that the business you start is something that you have a serious background in. Make sure of that. Make sure you have the proper training. Make sure you have everything that you need to succeed in business before you borrow money, especially from your house, to start the business. Don't start a business you know absolutely nothing about just because you have the money. Don't do it. Please don't do it. But listen, if you can make extra money to benefit your family, what you could end up doing is you could end up working less, but making a lot more once you do this thing right. I'm telling you, it'd be worth every dime you invest in that business if you do it right. Okay. What else do you want to do? Remember, use the money to improve your net worth and use the money to conserve, not to consume. Here's the next thing. All right. We talked about don't worry about a variable interest rate. All right. Oh, listen, here's another one. Use your HELOC. Once you have a balance on your HELOC, okay, here's one way, just one way to keep your interest cost a lot lower. When you get your income, most of you are depositing your income into a checking account and paying your bills from there. Well, if I'm just picking out some numbers, let's say you owe $10,000 on your HELOC. Okay. You owe $10,000 on your HELOC. And the way that interest is charged on a HELOC is different from a first mortgage. They charge interest on the average daily balance. That's how they charge interest, based on the average daily balance. So if you have a balance of $10,000, but you have $7,000 worth of income, why put the income in your checking account that pays you $0? Did you know you could take that income and have it deposited directly to the HELOC? Yeah, all $7,000. So if you owe $10,000 on it, some of you have a HELOC right now. Okay, I dare you to try this. Take your income and deposit it on the HELOC right now. Okay, and you bring it down. If you make $7,000, you bring down your balance by $7,000 on the HELOC right now, and then pay your bills from there. It's amazing what that can do. So if you owe $10,000 and you put your $7,000 of income into the HELOC, you're paying interest on how much money? You got it. You're paying interest on $3,000, not $10,000. Do you still owe $10,000? Yes, you do. But you're only paying interest on $3,000. Why? Because you put your income in there, and your income is working for you to save you interest. I'm just saying. Okay? Brilliant. Okay? So give that a try. But here's what you don't want to do. on all of this advice that I'm giving, all this that I'm asking you to do, I'm not giving you everything you need to know in this broadcast. Give us a call and get help. Give us a call and get help. Don't try these things on your own. I'm just giving you some things to think about. Okay. But give us a call so that we can help you. Even if it costs $150 for a consultation, it'll save you tens of thousands of dollars in the very near future because you took that advice. Okay. So here's the next thing we want to do. Okay. We talked about depositing your income. Okay. Unless you're highly skilled, listen to this now. Unless you're highly skilled, do not use your HELOC for velocity banking or put it in first position as a mortgage on your home. Don't do it unless you're highly skilled and disciplined. People are on the internet talking all the time about how to use a HELOC and velocity banking to pay down your debt faster and cheaper. But here are the things they are not telling you. Well, let me tell you first that velocity banking works. It does work. Using your mortgage in first position does work if you do it right. A lot of folks don't do it right. Here's what's happening. There's nothing to tell you how much to borrow from your HELOC, or nothing there to help you to know how much to borrow from your HELOC to pay down the other debt. Because the strategy is this. When you borrow money from the HELOC to pay down other debt, you have to pay back the HELOC, the home equity line of credit, before you can borrow again to do it again. Okay? Borrow money from the HELOC, put it on the debt, but now you have to pay back the HELOC, or you're going to just make another, you're just making another debt that's going to cost you a lot of money in the long run. So put yourself in a position where you can pay it back and you can keep reusing the money. So here's the thing. If you use this system, whether you're using a HELOC to borrow money to pay down debt or using it in the first position as a mortgage, you have to keep this in mind. You have to spend less money than you put in. If you're taking your income, because all of these two ideas of using the HELOC as for velocity banking or using the HELOC in the first position, the idea is to take your income and place it on the HELOC instead of putting it in your bank account. Okay. Let's say you owe $50,000 on the HELOC and you're using the system, but you have $150,000 as a limit on the HELOC. That means there's $100,000 available to borrow. Here's the temptation. I make $7,000. I put $7,000 in the HELOC, but my bills come to $5,000. Folks, that leaves $2,000 in the HELOC to help pay it down. But here's what happens to a lot of people, and I've seen it happen over and over and over again. They put in 7, but they spend 8. Lord have mercy. They put in $7,000 on the HELOC. They put in their income of $7,000, but they spend 8 because they're thinking, I need this extra $1,000 this month, but I'll pay it back next month. But they don't. The balance keeps growing and growing and growing on the HELOC until it gets out of control, and then they call us. Call us first, not last. Stop trying to do this on your own. Let's see that. I don't need to pay the P.I.L.L. method because I can do this on my own. Folks, there are so many different things to worry about when it comes to paying off debt. And one of the things that we talked about, I think even last week, is this. There are so many variables to consider that there are a myriad of ways to handle your finances. Meaning, if there are 5 different things you need to consider, that means there are 120 ways to pay off your debt. One of those ways is optimum. One of them is optimum. If you have 10 things to consider, oh my gosh, now you have so many things to consider, so many permutations, so many different ways to zero debt, so many different ways to handle your money. It becomes mind-boggling. So let me give you an example of what's going on. The average family has 13 different debts. So let me talk to you about what you need, some of the things that you need to consider when paying off the debt. Number one, what is the interest rate on all of the debt that you have? Would that matter which debt you attack, which debt you pay off first, based on the interest rate? Yes, that matters. Now you have to think about, how much do I owe on each loan with different interest rates? So should I just focus on the interest rate, or should I focus on the interest rate and how much I owe? That will tell me how much interest cost there is on each loan. Did you know that you could have an interest rate on a loan that is high and an interest rate on a loan that's low, but the low interest rate, you're actually paying more interest because of the balance than on the interest rate with a low balance? I got a high interest rate and low balance, which means my interest cost is low. I have a low rate on a high balance, which could mean my interest cost is very high. So, folks, the more interest you pay, the longer you stay in debt. And that's just 2 things to think about. Okay. So now I've got, which loan do I pay off? Which interest rate do I consider? How many loans do I actually have? And when will the loan, let's say you pick the right loan out of 13 different loans, because the average family has 13 different loans. The average family is paying 35 to 39% of their take-home pay just on interest. So now I've got all this going on. I've got all of these debts going on. And so now let's say I pick the right one that's costing me the most money and I pay it down. Do you realize that pretty soon, if I keep paying it down, that loan is actually going to be cheaper than the other 12? Should I keep paying it to 0 when it's already cheaper? Or should I focus in on another loan now that this loan is now cheaper? And let me focus on those loans until that this loan is the most expensive again, and then switch back. You see, I've already pointed out 3 different variables. That means there are 6 ways to handle that with just 3 different variables. I'm going to play for you a video now. If you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching this on Facebook, I'm going to show you a video. I tried to play last week, but I think I've got it this time. A video on what it means to have 10 variables using a simple bookshelf and with 10 books on it. And your job is to arrange this bookshelf in all the different ways that you can arrange 10 books on a shelf. If you're not watching this, you need to watch it. Go to YouTube, go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, watch this video with me now. And if you can't watch right now, make sure you watch the replay. We're at 1 hour and 9 minutes into this broadcast.
Mathematicians sometimes pose seemingly pointless questions. A question like this, for instance: there are 10 different books on a shelf. If it took an individual an average of 3 minutes to rearrange these books, how long would it take them to create every possible arrangement? There is a point to this question. The answer reveals something about the complexity of a simple process. Here's how you solve this. Let's start by posing this same question, but with fewer books. Here we have 3 books. The first thing we need to determine is how many possible different arrangements there are. It should be a simple task to actually complete all possible arrangements and count them. We assume the books sit on the shelf in a normal vertical position. This is a first possible arrangement. This is a second arrangement, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. 6 possible ways to arrange the books. If you inspect the arrangements, you will see there are no other ways to arrange these books. To analyze this process, we will use some math. Here's how a mathematician would approach this. We have 3 books to put on a shelf. We have 3 choices for the first book, and once we have made that choice, we have 2 choices left for the next book. Once we've made that choice, we have only 1 choice left for the last book. The mathematician multiplies these 3 options together. 3 times 2 times 1 gives us 6 possible arrangements. This number agrees with our original investigation. Mathematicians have a special notation for this technique. 3 times 2 times 1 is called 3 factorial. The notation looks like this. The exclamation mark tells us we are multiplying 3 times 2 times 1. The integers decrease by 1. This technique is powerful. Let's suppose we needed to calculate how many ways we could organize 4 different books on a shelf. The answer is 4 factorial. 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. A total of 24 possible arrangements. No need to actually create each arrangement. Let's go back to our 3 books. We know there are 6 possible arrangements. How long would it take someone to complete all 6 of these arrangements? If it takes them 1 minute to make and check each arrangement, 6 times 1 minute is 6 minutes. It probably wouldn't take that long, but using 1 minute keeps the arithmetic simple. Now let's apply this to a slightly larger book arrangement, 10 books. How long would it take someone to arrange these 10 different books in every possible way? We have more books, so let's allow 3 minutes to complete each arrangement. How long do you think it would take them to complete this task? The answer is surprising. Let's calculate. We have 10 different books, so 10 factorial will give us the number of possible arrangements. 10 times 9 times 8 and so on. Multiplying, we get an astounding 3,628,800 possible arrangements. How long would it take to set all of these up? We've allowed 3 minutes for each arrangement. 3 minutes times 3,628,800 gives us 10,886,400 minutes. To change the time to hours, let's divide this by 60. Completing that division, we get 181,440 hours. If the person doing these arrangements decided to spend 30 hours a week at this task, how many weeks would it take them to complete it? Dividing 181,440 hours by 30, the number of work hours per week, we get 6,048 weeks. Now let's change this to years. There are 52 weeks in a year. Dividing 6,048 weeks by 52, we find this task would take an incredible 116 years to complete, more than a century. Who would have thought that it could take over 100 years to complete such a simple task? Obviously, calculating how many ways to arrange a bookshelf is not particularly important, but mathematical techniques like this play important roles in sophisticated tasks. Tasks like analyzing the base pair configurations of DNA. The powerful tools and techniques of mathematics continue to reveal more about the processes that drive all aspects of our universe. For more science-related videos and projects, visit our website, hylaroad.com.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that? So if we have 10 variables, what seems to be a simple process can be so very, very difficult to even conceive of 3.6 million different ways to do something. And only one of those ways out of 3.6 million is the right thing to do that's going to save us the most money. All the others cost you money. We have been led to believe that everything that you can do to get out of debt is as good as any other thing you can do to get out of debt. And I'm here to tell you, it's not true. People make mistakes all the time that cost them tens of thousands of dollars. They don't need to pay an interest. You need to give us a call or go to ice10k.com and get a savings and earnings report, or give us a call at 256-886-1867. Give us a call so you can have help when you go to the bank. You need to be educated when you talk to your banker. It is way more complicated than you have been led to believe. Okay? So, what's next? What's next? Oh, let's talk about the interest-only mortgage. Did you know, I believe that the interest-only mortgage is the very best mortgage there is? The interest-only mortgage is, and what they'll do is they'll give you interest only for the first 10 years. Okay? So let me go ahead and let's put that interest-only mortgage on the screen. Okay? For now. So we're going to put this on, we're going to add this to the screen. There it is. Our interest only mortgage. So when you, let's say you could get this mortgage at interest only, and listen, they're more common than you think. Even Chase Bank does interest only mortgages, but it doesn't mean you have to pay just interest only. So even the Brett Whistle will give you your interest only payment, which is out of 2661.21. Your interest only payment is $2,333.33. That is your minimum payment. But did you know that they want you to pay interest only for the first 10 years? Okay. How much interest will you pay in 10 years? So let's take a look at that. Okay. That is 120 months times 2,333.33 equals 279,000. Now, listen, that's $280,000. And guess what? At the end of the 10 years, you'll still owe the $400,000. That is a crime if you don't know what to do with an interest only loan. When you have an interest only loan, you have the option of putting money on principal whenever you want. In fact, if you use an interest only loan correctly, you can pay it off faster and cheaper than a traditional loan. Yes, because when you have an interest only loan, your minimum payment is based on how much you owe. What? So if I have a $400,000 loan and I'm paying interest only and I put money on principal, let's just say I'm just picking out a number, $5,000. Okay. I eventually get to the $5,000 mark that I put directly on principal, even on my interest only loan, which means I have a loan now of $395,000, correct? Yes. So does that mean if my interest payment is based on how much I owe, does that mean my minimum payment is now less? Listen to me, all of you, especially those who are real estate investors. If you have an interest only loan, you are in complete control of your cash flow, even without refinancing. When you put money on principal, you lower the minimum payment on that loan. You control the payment. You control how much interest you pay. You control the whole thing. An interest-only loan gives you maximum control over your debt and your interest costs, and you can kill that thing with the right advice, with the right mentoring. And you get that here at the P.I.L.L method. Okay. So I love the interest only loan. Okay. Now, here is the last thing we're going to talk about. I've been here an hour and 20 minutes. Okay. Here's the last thing we're going to talk about today. Introductory rates on mortgages. Introductory rates on mortgages. Do you realize when you get an introductory rate, meaning I get a low interest rate in the beginning, and the interest rate actually climbs to its real interest rate over time? Okay. I just hit my microphone. Sorry about that. I just get so excited about this stuff. I start out with a low interest rate and then it climbs over time. Do you realize at the lower interest rate, it is harder to save money in the beginning because the principal payment, listen, the principal payment is higher and the interest cost is higher on a lower rate. So if you have a higher rate, you can do more damage to the loan. So get the higher rate in the beginning. Don't get an introductory rate. Don't get fooled by getting the introductory rate, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do it. So if I could get, let me see if I can, let me do this. Let me do this, okay? Introductory rate. Let's get this thing all the way down to 4%, okay? The real rate is 7%. The introductory rate is 4%. My payment is $1,909.66 versus $2,661, okay? But look at my principal payment. It's $578. It takes $7,000 at 4% to knock off 1 year. It only takes $4,000 to knock off 1 year at the higher interest rate. When they lower the interest rate, they're doing themselves a service. They're not doing you a service. They're doing you a disservice. This is called financial violence. When they do stuff that's costing you big money, but you believe you're doing the right thing. I don't know what else to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. You need to watch this video over and over and over again. But I've gone over several things today that you need to consider when it comes to banking. Okay, so let me put this back. Let me put this back on the screen one more time. You need to see this. Stop trusting your banker. They're not trained to help you. They're trained to help the bank. They believe they're helping you. They're just not trained to help you. Get with somebody from the P.I.L.L method that is trained to help you save money on these loans. Learn to borrow money at a discount. Learn to borrow money 75 to 80% off. Learn to borrow money responsibly. Learn to borrow money cheaply. Okay? Cut your interest cost by 75%. Let me make that number real for you. If you're supposed to pay $100,000 in interest on something, then you're going to pay $25,000 instead. If you're supposed to pay $300,000 in interest on your debt, you're going to pay $100,000 in interest instead. In other words, if you're to acquire the asset, the bank wants to charge you $300,000 in interest. What if you could pay $100,000 in interest and still acquire the asset? That saves you $200,000 you didn't have to give to the bank. And that's $200,000 you can use to invest in yourself and in your family. Folks, we're here to tell you the truth. We're here to stop financial violence. We're here to help you. Let me make myself bigger here. We're here to help you to stop giving all that money to the bank. They're not trained to help you, but we are. All right. Listen, do I have any questions before I get out of here? Okay, I got a comment here. Ah, hi, Robbie. Robbie is watching us from Phoenix, ladies and gentlemen. All right, listen, I grew up with this guy. Listen, we went to school together. We went to high school together. Now he's out in Phoenix. Robbie, thank you so much for your support. He has a radio show. Robbie, put the information about your radio show in there so folks can. He's got a gospel radio show out there in Phoenix. I think you will enjoy. Put your information in there, Robert, so people can know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to get out of here. But I just wanted you to watch one more video, one little commercial here about what it is that we do to help. Okay, so let me go and find it for you, and we'll play this just before we get out of here. Okay, and here we go. How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.
All right, folks, that's our show for today. I want to thank you for being here, but don't forget to go to ice10k.com. Click on the button that says Get a Savings and Earnings Report. It's complimentary, all right? You can know the month, day, and year you could be debt-free and how much interest you could save. And you also you'll get a coach that will teach you and help you when it's time to go to the bank and how to use their tools correctly. I can't wait to talk to you in person. Give me a call, contact us, and let's go to work, folks. Let's go to work in saving this money. Okay? So I'm going to see you next week. We're going to get out of here. We're signing off. Thank you so very much for being here, watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, being with us here on Clubhouse. So make sure that you're subscribing, that you're commenting, and you're liking the videos. Okay? All right, folks. See you next week.